You love your dog. But what if I told you that some of the things you do every day are actually making them anxious, frustrated, or even resentful? Asterisk, what if your dog is secretly unhappy, and you don't even know it? Stay with me because, in the next few minutes, you might discover that you've been making some big mistakes that could be ruining your dog's trust in you, without you even realizing it. Asterisk, and the worst part? The last behavior on this list could actually be causing your dog emotional distress. And it's something almost every pet owner does. Dogs are loyal, loving, and incredibly forgiving. But that doesn't mean they enjoy everything we do. In fact, many common human behaviors can make them anxious, uncomfortable, or even afraid. The problem is, most dog owners have no idea they're doing something wrong. But don't worry. Today, we're breaking down the 25 human behaviors dogs absolutely hate and, more importantly, what you should be doing instead. Some of these might seem small or harmless, but to a dog, they can mean the difference between feeling safe and feeling stressed. And if left unaddressed, some of these behaviors can even damage your bond with your dog over time. Ever wonder why your dog suddenly avoids you? Or why do they react in strange ways when you do something totally normal? Well, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to stop doing to keep your furry friend happy and stress-free. We'll cover everything, from subtle mistakes, like how you pet your dog, to bigger issues, like behaviors that can secretly cause anxiety. And trust me, some of these will shock you. In fact, one of the worst behaviors on this list is something most dog owners do every single day, and they have no idea how much their dog hates it. Before we dive in, I have a challenge for you. As you watch this video, keep track of how many of these habits you've been guilty of doing. Be honest. Drop your number in the comments at the end. I bet some of you will be surprised. And if you love your dog and want them to live a long, happy life, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps more pet owners learn these important tips. And for more must-know dog care secrets, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Alright, let's get started. The first behavior on this list is something people do all the time, and it can make your dog feel seriously threatened. Let's find out what it is. 1. Staring directly into their eyes. You ever had that moment where you lock eyes with your dog, expecting a warm, loving connection? But instead, they look away, lick their lips, or even seem uneasy. Well, there's a reason for that, one that most people completely misunderstand. To us, eye contact is a sign of affection, trust, or confidence. But to a dog, can mean something totally different. In the animal world, direct, prolonged eye contact is often a challenge, a sign of dominance or even aggression. Think about it. When two dogs stare each other down, it's usually moments before a fight breaks out. So when you stare straight into your dog's eyes for too long, they might not be feeling the love you think you're giving them. They might be feeling threatened. Now, don't get me wrong. Dogs can develop trust with their owners and become comfortable with eye contact over time, especially when it's paired with soft, friendly gestures. But if your dog suddenly looks away, blinks excessively, or turns their head when you stare, they're not being dismissive. They're showing politeness and submission in dog language. It's their way of saying, "I'm not looking for trouble." So, what's the right way to bond with your dog through eye contact? Instead of holding a direct, intense stare, try softening your gaze and blinking slowly. This mimics the natural calming signals that dogs use with each other. Even better, pair it with a gentle voice or a treat, so your dog associates eye contact with something positive. Have you ever noticed your dog looking away when you stare at them? Next time, try the slow blink trick and see how they respond. Let me know what happens in the comments. Now, if you think this was surprising, wait until you hear what's next. The next behavior is something almost every pet owner does daily, without realizing how much it makes their dog uncomfortable. Let's talk about it. 2. Hugging too tightly. You love your dog, right? Of course you do. And when you love someone, what do? You hug them. But here's something that might shock you. Most dogs don't actually like being hugged. I know, it's heartbreaking to hear. We see dogs in movies and cute viral videos smiling while getting hugged, so we assume they love it. But the truth? Your dog might just be tolerating it. And if they could talk, they'd probably say, Please, stop. Think about it from their perspective. In the wild, when one animal wraps its limbs around another, it's usually not a sign of affection. It's a sign of dominance or restraint. When you squeeze your dog too tightly, they might feel trapped, anxious, or even threatened. Here's the real test. The next time you go in for a hug, watch your dog's body language. Do they turn their head away? Do they lick their lips or yawn? Maybe their ears go back, or they suddenly tense up. Those are subtle signs of discomfort, and it's their way of saying, "I don't like this, but I trust you enough not to fight it." Now, don't get me wrong. Your dog still loves affection. But instead of a tight squeeze, try gentle pets, belly rubs, or a soft scratch behind the ears. That's the kind of love dogs actually enjoy. Some dogs even prefer physical closeness without direct pressure, like leaning against you or resting their head on your lap. That's their version of a hug. So, be honest. Are you guilty of over-hugging your dog? Let me know in the comments. And if your dog actually enjoys hugs, tell me their reaction. I'd love to know. Alright, if you thought this was surprising, wait until you hear what's next. This next behavior is something pet owners do without even thinking, and it can cause serious anxiety for your dog. Let's get into it. 3. Loud noises and yelling. Have you ever seen a dog cower at the sound of thunder? Or bolt out of the room when someone slams a door? Now, imagine what it must feel like when that loud, booming noise is coming from you. Dogs have insanely sharp hearing, 4 times better than ours, so what sounds loud to us can feel deafening to them. Now, here's where things get even more serious. Yelling at your dog doesn't just scare them, it confuses them. And worst of all, it can break their trust in you. Think about it from their perspective. 1 minute, they're just being a dog. Maybe they had an accident on the floor, maybe they chewed something they shouldn't have. The next minute, the person they love the most is towering over them, shouting in a voice that sounds angry and threatening. They don't understand your words. All they know is that you're upset, and they don't know why. Some dogs might cower or lower their tails when you yell, while others might become restless, pacing, or hiding under furniture. And here's something many people don't realize. Some dogs will even act out more when they're yelled at. Not because they're being bad, but because they're feeling stressed and don't know how to process it. So what should you do instead? Instead of yelling, try using a firm but calm voice. Dogs respond far better to consistency and positive reinforcement than they do to fear. If they make a mistake, redirect their behavior rather than punishing them. Reward the good, ignore the bad, and watch how much more they start to understand. Have you ever noticed your dog reacting to loud noises? What's the one sound that freaks them out the most? Tell me in the comments. Alright, get ready, because this next behavior seems completely harmless, but it can actually damage your dog's skin and health over time. Let's talk about it. 4. Bathing too often. Alright, here's a question for you. How often do you bathe your dog? Once a week? Every few days? If so, I've got some bad news. You might be ruining their skin. I get it. You want your dog to smell fresh and be clean. But here's what most pet owners don't realize. Dogs don't need baths as often as we do. In fact, too much bathing can strip away their natural oils, leaving their skin dry, itchy, and irritated. And trust me, no one wants a constantly scratching, uncomfortable pup. Have you ever noticed your dog scratching more or developing flaky skin after a bath? That's because those natural oils in their coat aren't just for keeping them clean. They help protect their skin and keep their fur healthy and shiny. When you wash them too often, you're washing away their built-in defense system. Now, you might be wondering, how often should you bathe your dog? Well, that depends on their breed, coat type, and lifestyle. A short-haired dog that stays indoors most of the time? Once every 4 to 6 weeks is usually enough. But if your dog loves rolling in the mud or has a thicker coat, they might need baths every 2 to 4 weeks. So what's the alternative? Instead of overbathing, try brushing them regularly to remove dirt and dead hair. You can also use dog-friendly wipes to freshen them up between baths. And if odor is an issue, a sprinkle of baking soda or a waterless dog shampoo can do wonders without stripping their skin. Be honest. How often do you bathe your dog? Have you ever noticed changes in their coat or skin? Drop your answer in the comments. Alright, up next is something that might surprise you. Dogs actually hate this next thing more than baths, because it messes with their instincts. Let's talk about it. 5. Dressing them in clothes. Alright, let's be real. There's something ridiculously cute about a dog in a sweater. Or a tiny hat. Or maybe even a full-blown Halloween costume. But here's the thing, most dogs hate it. Now, before you come for me in the comments, I get it. Some dogs genuinely don't mind wearing clothes, especially if they were introduced to it early and positively. But for the vast majority of pups, those tiny outfits you find adorable can actually feel annoying, stressful, and even physically uncomfortable. Ever put a sweater on your dog and notice them freezing in place like a statue? Maybe they keep shaking, trying to wriggle out, or pawing at it like it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. Those are clear signs that they're not enjoying it. In their mind, they're thinking, why did my human just trap me in this weird, tight thing? I can't move properly. The truth is, dogs already have built-in protection, their fur. Clothes can restrict movement, make them too hot, and even cause anxiety because it limits their natural body language. However, there are exceptions. Small, short-haired breeds like Chihuahuas, Greyhounds, or even older dogs who struggle with the cold can benefit from a light sweater in chilly weather. But a full-on costume? Probably unnecessary. So, what's the solution? If your dog needs warmth, stick to simple, lightweight sweaters that allow them to move freely. And most importantly, watch their reaction. If they seem uncomfortable or try to get it off, respect their feelings and ditch the outfit. Instead, focus on keeping them warm with cozy blankets, heated pet beds, or simply snuggling up with you. Alright, now I gotta ask, does your dog love or hate wearing clothes? Have you ever seen them do the frozen statue pose? Let me know in the comments. Up next, we're talking about something even more irritating for your dog than wearing clothes. And you probably do it every single day without realizing it. Let's get into it. 6. Using strong scents and perfume. Imagine this. You're trapped in a small room, and someone walks in wearing the strongest, most overpowering cologne you've ever smelled. It's so intense that your eyes water, your head starts to pound, and all you want to do is escape. Sounds awful, right? Well, that's exactly how your dog feels every time you spray perfume, light a scented candle, or use a strong-smelling cleaning product around them. Dogs experience the world through their nose. While humans have around 5 million scent receptors, dogs have up to 300 million. That means the smell of your favorite floral perfume or lemon-scented floor cleaner isn't just strong to them. It's like being hit with a wall of overwhelming, inescapable odors. Ever notice your dog suddenly sneezing, shaking their head, or rubbing their nose on the ground after you spray air freshener? Maybe they leave the room entirely or start acting restless. That's their way of saying, hey, this is way too much for me. Strong scents can irritate their nose, trigger allergies, and even cause respiratory issues over time. So, what should you avoid? Strongly scented shampoos, perfumes, essential oils, and harsh chemical cleaners can all be too intense for your dog. Some essential oils, like tea tree, eucalyptus, and peppermint, are actually toxic to dogs when inhaled in large amounts. Instead, if you want a fresh-smelling home, go for pet-safe, fragrance-free cleaning products and keep heavily scented items far away from where your dog sleeps or eats. And if you're worried about your dog smelling bad, the best solution isn't perfume. It's regular brushing, a proper diet, and occasional baths with mild, dog-friendly shampoo. Natural remedies like baking soda and apple cider vinegar can also help neutralize odors without overwhelming your pup's nose. Have you ever seen your dog react to a strong smell? What's the one scent they seem to hate the most? Drop your answers in the comments. Alright, up next. This next behavior is something almost every dog owner does, but it can actually cause stress and even physical pain for your dog. Let's get into it. 7. Pulling on their leash. Alright, let's talk about something that almost every dog owner is guilty of at some point. Picture this, you're out for a walk, and your dog gets a little too excited and starts pulling, so you instinctively yank back on the leash to get them under control. Seems harmless, right? Well, to your dog, it's actually frustrating, confusing, and even painful. Now, imagine you're walking with a friend, and every time you take a step too quickly or get distracted, they suddenly jerk you backward by the neck. Not a pleasant thought, huh? Well, that's exactly what's happening to your dog when you pull on their leash. And suppose you're using a traditional collar instead of a harness. In that case, that sudden yank can actually put dangerous pressure on their throat, causing pain, choking, or even long-term trachea damage. Ever noticed your dog coughing after a leash correction? Or maybe they start digging their paws in and resisting the walk. Some dogs even become more reactive or aggressive on walks, not because they're being bad, but because they're frustrated and overstimulated from all the pulling and tension. So why do dogs pull in the first place? Simple, they walk faster than we do, and they're excited to explore. The problem is, when you pull back, they instinctively pull even harder. Instead of fighting against them, the key is to train them to walk at your pace. Use a proper no-pull harness, reward them when they walk next to you, and stop reinforcing bad habits by constantly yanking the leash. Here's a trick: when your dog starts pulling, stop walking completely. Stand still until they loosen the tension on their own. The moment they do, reward them with a treat and keep walking. This teaches them that pulling stops progress, while loose leash walking gets them where they want to go. Have you ever had trouble with leash pulling? What's the biggest struggle you face when walking your dog? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you thought leash pulling was bad, wait until you hear about this next one. It's something you might be doing every single morning, and it could be making your dog feel completely miserable. Let's get into it. 8. Waking them up suddenly. Alright, let's talk about something we've all probably done without thinking. You see your dog peacefully sleeping, maybe even dreaming, those little paws twitching, ears flicking, maybe a soft whimper. It's adorable. But then, you need to get up, or maybe you want to give them a quick pet, so you call their name or gently shake them awake. No harm in that, right? Actually, you might be startling them more than you realize. Imagine this. You're deep in the best sleep of your life, warm, comfortable, dreaming about something amazing. Then, out of nowhere, someone grabs your arm and shakes you awake. Your heart pounds, your body jolts, and for a moment, you have no idea what's going on. That's exactly what happens to your dog when they're woken up suddenly. Some dogs might just blink at you, confused. But others, they could snap, growl, or even bite out of pure reflex. This isn't aggression, it's a natural survival response. Just like humans, dogs have sleep cycles, and if they're jolted awake from deep sleep, their brains don't always process what's happening immediately. They might lash out before realizing it's just you. Dogs, especially puppies and senior dogs, need a lot of sleep, sometimes up to 14 to 18 hours a day. Their bodies and minds depend on that rest. So, if you have to wake them up, do it gently. Instead of touching them right away, try calling their name softly or making a small noise from a distance. Let them wake up on their own terms so they don't feel startled or defensive. And honestly, unless it's necessary, just let them sleep. A well-rested dog is a happier, healthier dog. If you notice your dog sleeping a lot, don't worry, it's completely normal. But do they seem overly tired or lethargic all the time? That could be a sign of an underlying health issue, so always keep an eye on their energy levels. Has your dog ever reacted weirdly when woken up suddenly? Maybe a funny or unexpected reaction. Now, up next is something most dog owners do every single day, but it can actually cause stress and frustration for your dog. Let's talk about it. 9. Not letting them sniff on walks. Alright, let's be honest. Have you ever gotten frustrated on a walk because your dog keeps stopping to sniff everything? You're trying to get some exercise, keep a steady pace, and maybe get the walk done, but your dog? They're busy shoving their nose into every blade of grass, every tree trunk and every fire hydrant like it holds the secrets of the universe. Annoying, right? Well, here's the truth, to them, it actually does. We often think of walks as just exercise for dogs, but for them, a walk is so much more than just movement. It's their chance to explore the world through scent. And when you constantly tug on the leash, rushing them along, you're basically ripping away their chance to experience their surroundings in the way that's most natural to them. Imagine going to a new city but not being allowed to look around, only being forced to power walk straight through. Not fun, right? Dogs have an incredible sense of smell, up to 100,000 times stronger than ours. Their noses aren't just for detecting scents, they actually process information through smell. That tree they stopped at for 2 minutes? It's not just a tree, it's a news feed of who was there, what they ate, and how they were feeling. They're basically scrolling through their version of social media with every sniff. Now, I'm not saying you should let your dog drag you down the sidewalk, stopping at every single thing. But allowing them some freedom to sniff, even for just a few extra seconds, can make walks way more enjoyable for them. a good balance. Try designating sniffing zones where you give them time to explore and then gently encourage movement when needed. If you really want to make your dog happy, try a dedicated sniff walk, where the goal isn't exercise, but pure nose-powered exploration. Want a more focused walk? Use a longer leash to give them a bit more room to explore safely. And always remember, a mentally stimulated dog is a happy dog. Sometimes, letting them sniff can actually tire them out more than just a long walk. What's the weirdest thing your dog has ever been obsessed with sniffing? Tell me in the comments. I bet we'll get some funny ones. Now, if you thought this was interesting, wait until you hear about the next thing dogs secretly hate. It's something we do because we think it's helpful, but it actually makes them feel trapped and anxious. Let's dive into it. 10. Forcing socialization with other dogs. Alright, tell me if this sounds familiar. You're out on a walk, you see another dog approaching, and you think, oh, perfect. My dog could use a new friend. You guide them toward each other, expecting tails to wag and an instant friendship to form. But instead, your dog stiffens up, looks away, or maybe even growls. Suddenly, it's awkward. What just happened? Shouldn't all dogs love meeting new friends? Here's the thing, not all dogs want to be social. Just like humans, dogs have different personalities. Some are outgoing and playful, while others prefer their space. And when we force them into social situations they're uncomfortable with, it can actually make them fearful, anxious, or even reactive. Ever notice your dog trying to move away from another dog, turning their head, yawning, or even licking their lips? Those aren't just random actions, they're stress signals. They're saying, I don't feel comfortable right now, and I'd rather not engage. But if we ignore those signals and keep pushing them into interactions, we're basically forcing them into an uncomfortable, high-stress situation. Now, this doesn't mean your dog should never be around other dogs. But socialization should happen on their terms, not ours. Instead of forcing an interaction, watch their body language. If they seem hesitant, let them observe from a distance first. If they show curiosity, let them approach at their own pace. And here's a big one, not all dogs want to be dog park dogs. If your dog gets nervous in big groups, it's okay. They don't need a dozen dog friends to be happy. The key is controlled, positive experiences. Instead of overwhelming them, try one-on-one playdates with a calm dog. Use treats and praise to make social moments feel safe. And always respect their comfort zone, because a confident, secure dog is way better than a stressed-out, forced-to-socialize one. Does your dog love making new friends, or are they more of a keep-to-myself type? Alright, coming up next. This next behavior is something we do because we think it's fun, but to dogs? It's straight up annoying, and maybe even a little scary. Let's talk about it. 11. Teasing them for fun. Alright, let's be honest. We've all done this at some point. Maybe you've playfully tugged on your dog's tail, held their favorite toy just out of reach, or made silly noises to see their reaction. It's all in good fun, right? But what if I told you that your dog probably hates it? Now, don't get me wrong. Dogs love playtime, and a little fun is great. But there's a big difference between playing with your dog and teasing them in a way that confuses or frustrates them. Think about it. Imagine someone waving food in front of your face but never letting you have it or repeatedly poking you when you're trying to relax. Annoying, right? Well, that's exactly how dogs feel when they're teased. Some dogs will show subtle signs of frustration, like turning their head away, licking their lips, or yawning. Others might start barking, growling, or snapping, not because they're mean, but because they're trying to say, hey, I don't like this. And if we ignore these signals, it can actually damage their trust in us. Here's a simple rule. If your dog is engaging with you and having fun, that's play. But if they're trying to get away, avoiding eye contact, or showing signs of stress, it's not funny to them, it's frustrating. Instead of teasing, focus on an interactive play that makes them happy, like a game of fetch, a fun tug-of-war, or puzzle toys that engage their mind. Remember, your dog doesn't understand pranks the way humans do. What might seem like a harmless joke to us can feel confusing, irritating, or even scary to them. So, instead of teasing, try engaging with them in ways that strengthen your bond. A dog that feels safe and respected is always going to be a happier, more trusting companion. Have you ever noticed your dog reacting to a harmless joke in a way that surprised you? Or maybe you've got a funny story about their reaction to something unexpected. Drop it in the comments. Now, if you thought this was eye-opening, wait until you hear about the next thing humans do that dogs absolutely hate. And it's something that can seriously affect their emotional well-being. Let's get into it. 12. Leaving them alone for too long. Alright, here's something that might hit home for a lot of dog owners. You love your dog, and you give them food, shelter, and lots of belly rubs. But let's be real. Life gets busy. Maybe you have work, school, or errands to run, and before you know it, your dog has been home alone for hours. You figure they'll be fine, right? I mean, they've got a cozy bed, some toys, maybe a treat or two. But what if I told you that long periods of isolation can actually be one of the most stressful things for your dog? Dogs are social animals. In the wild, they'd never be alone for hours on end. They'd always be with their pack. And in your home, you are their pack. So when you leave them alone for too long, they don't just feel bored. They can feel anxious, abandoned, and even depressed. Ever come home to a mess? Maybe chewed up furniture, shredded pillows, or accidents on the floor. Or maybe your neighbors mention that your dog barks or howls while you're gone. These aren't signs of a bad dog. They're signs of stress and separation anxiety. Some dogs handle alone time better than others, but for many, too much isolation leads to serious emotional distress. Now, I'm not saying you can never leave your dog alone. Life doesn't work that way. But there are ways to make it easier and less stressful for them. Before you leave, make sure they've had enough exercise so they're tired and relaxed. Leave them with a mentally stimulating toy, like a treat puzzle or a Kong filled with peanut butter, to keep them occupied. And if you're gone for long hours, consider a dog walker, pet sitter, or even doggy daycare to break up their day. One of the best things you can do: create a leaving and returning routine. Don't make a big deal out of leaving. Calmly walk out the door. And when you come back, stay calm and low-key. This helps your dog understand that coming and going is normal, not something to get overly anxious about. How does your dog react when you leave the house? Have you ever caught them doing something funny while home alone? Tell me in the comments. I bet there are some great stories. Now, up next is something that might surprise you. We do this because we think it helps our dogs learn faster, but in reality, it can actually make them more confused and frustrated. Let's talk about it. 13. Using inconsistent commands. Alright, let's play a quick game. Imagine you're learning a new language, and your teacher keeps changing the meaning of the same word every day. One day, sit means sit. The next day, it means jump. The day after that, it means nothing at all. Confusing, right? Well, that's exactly how your dog feels when we use inconsistent commands. Dogs don't understand English, or any human language, for that matter. What they do understand is consistency. When we say down, sometimes to mean lie down, and other times to mean get off the couch, we're unknowingly setting them up for failure. They aren't ignoring us. They have no idea what we actually want. Ever told your dog off when they were jumping but later said down and expected the same result? Or maybe one family member says, come here, while another says, come. But both expect the dog to respond the same way. This kind of mixed messaging doesn't just slow down training. It actually makes your dog anxious and uncertain about what's expected of them. The good news? Dogs thrive on structure and routine. The more clear and consistent you are, the faster they'll learn. Pick one word per command and stick with it across the board. If sit means sit, it should always mean sit. If off means get off the couch, don't also use down for the same thing. Keep it simple, and make sure everyone in the household is using the same cues. Another trick: reinforce commands with the same hand signals. Dogs are highly visual learners, so pairing a clear gesture with a verbal cue can make a world of difference. And when they do get it right, reward them immediately so they associate the command with something positive. Be honest. Have you ever caught yourself using mixed commands without realizing it? What's the funniest or most confusing oops moment you've had while training your dog? Now, this next one is something a lot of people do without even realizing it. It's not just frustrating for dogs, it can actually make them feel completely powerless. Let's get into it. 14. Punishing them for accidents. Alright, let's be real. Nobody likes coming home to a mess. You walk through the door after a long day, only to find a puddle on the floor or, worse, a surprise waiting for you on the carpet. Your first reaction? Probably frustration. Maybe even anger. And in that moment, It's tempting to scold your dog, point at the mess, and say, "What did you do?" But here's the problem. Your dog has no idea what you're mad about. Think about it. If the accident happened an hour ago, or even just a few minutes ago, your dog has already moved on. They don't associate your anger with the mess. They see their humans suddenly getting upset and raising their voice. Instead of learning a lesson, they become confused, anxious, and even fearful. Ever seen a dog look guilty after an accident? Maybe they lower their head, tuck their tail, or avoid eye contact. That's not guilt, it's fear. They're reacting to your tone and body language, not because they understand they did something wrong. And punishing them doesn't teach them where to go. It just makes them scared to go potty in front of you at all. So what should you do instead? First, clean up the mess thoroughly with an enzymatic cleaner to remove any lingering scent, because if they can smell it, they might think it's okay to go there again. Then, focus on prevention. Take them out more often, reward them heavily when they go to the right spot, and keep a consistent routine. If accidents keep happening, it's not because they're being bad. It's because they need a little more help understanding the rules. If you catch them in the act, stay calm and immediately redirect them to the right spot. The key is positive reinforcement, not fear. Reward them when they get it right, and be patient. Dogs don't think like humans, they don't hold grudges, and they don't act out of spite. They just need clear, consistent guidance. Have you ever had a potty training struggle with your dog? What's the funniest or most frustrating accident they've ever had? Now, this next one is a mistake that happens way more often than you might think. And it can actually make your dog feel completely overwhelmed. Let's talk about it. 15. Not respecting their personal space. Alright, let's do a little experiment. Imagine you're sitting on the couch, completely relaxed, when suddenly, someone gets right up in your face. No warning. No reason. Just right there invading your space. Feels uncomfortable, right? Maybe even a little irritating? Well, guess what? Dogs feel the same way when we don't respect their personal space. We love our dogs, and naturally, we want to be close to them. But just like us, dogs need boundaries. They have moments when they're tired, overwhelmed, or simply not in the mood for affection. Yet, many of us, without even realizing it, force interaction at the wrong time. Whether it's hugging them while they're sleeping, getting right in their face for kisses, or even picking them up when they don't want to be held, these actions can be incredibly stressful for them. Ever notice your dog turning their head away when you go in for a kiss? Maybe they get up and move to another spot when you sit too close? These aren't random actions. They're polite ways of saying, "Hey, I need a little space right now." And if we ignore these signals, some dogs might escalate to growling, snapping, or even biting, not because they're aggressive, but because their more subtle signals were ignored. The key is to let your dog initiate affection. If they lean into you, nuzzle your hand, or curl up next to you, that's an invitation. But do they pull away or seem hesitant? Give them time. Just like with humans, forcing closeness doesn't build trust, it breaks it. Instead, focus on building a relationship where your dog feels safe enough to come to you on their own. Instead of invading their space, try using calming gestures, like sitting nearby without forcing interaction. Let them come to you, and when they do, reward that trust with gentle affection on their terms. This creates a bond based on respect, not force. Have you ever noticed your dog moving away when they've had enough attention? Or do they have a special way of asking for affection? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Now, this next one might be something you've never even thought about before, but ignoring it could lead to serious communication breakdowns between you and your dog. Let's dive into it. 16. Ignoring their body language. Imagine you're in a foreign country where no one speaks your language. You're trying to communicate, using hand gestures and facial expressions, but no one seems to notice, or worse, they completely misunderstand you. Frustrating, right? Well, that's exactly how dogs feel when we ignore their body language. Dogs can't speak like we do, but that doesn't mean they aren't constantly communicating. In fact, they talk to us all the time, through their ears, tail, posture, and facial expressions. But here's the problem. Most people don't take the time to understand what their dog is trying to say. And when do we miss these signals? It can lead to stress, anxiety, or even aggressive behavior. Ever seen a dog wagging its tail and assumed they were happy? Here's the thing. Not all tail wags mean excitement. A slow, stiff wag or a wagging tail held high can actually be a sign of tension or alertness. Same with yawning. Dogs don't always yawn because they're tired. Sometimes, it's a stress signal. Lip licking, turning their head away, tucking their tail. These are all ways your dog is trying to tell you, I'm uncomfortable. But if we don't recognize these signals, we might accidentally put them in situations that feel scary or overwhelming. The good news? You don't have to be a dog whisperer to understand what your pup is saying. You just need to pay attention. If your dog stiffens up when meeting a new person, don't force the interaction. If they look away when you go in for a hug, respect that they might not be in the mood for affection. And if they start showing signs of stress, like panting, pacing, or excessive blinking, it might be time to give them space or remove them from the situation. Building a strong relationship with your dog isn't just about commands and treats. It's about listening to them, even when they're not speaking. The more you learn to read their signals, the stronger your bond will be. And a dog that feels understood? That's a happy, confident dog. Have you ever noticed your dog giving you a signal that you didn't understand at first? What's the funniest or most surprising way they've talked to you? Now, this next mistake is something that happens in homes all the time, especially if you have kids. And if you're not careful, it can create serious behavioral problems down the road. 17. Letting kids be rough with them. Dogs and kids, two of the purest, most loving beings on the planet. But just because they often grow up together doesn't mean they always understand each other. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming their dog will tolerate anything a child does to them. We've all seen those viral videos, a toddler climbing on a dog's back, pulling their ears, or even hugging them a little too tightly. And the dog, sitting there, wide-eyed, completely still. People see this and think, wow, what a patient dog. But what they don't realize is that many of those dogs aren't happy at all. They're actually incredibly stressed. Most dogs won't immediately snap or growl when they're uncomfortable. Instead, they show subtle signs of distress, licking their lips, yawning, avoiding eye contact, stiffening up. And if those signals are ignored, that's when things can escalate. The sad truth? Many dogs are unfairly labeled aggressive when they finally react, but in reality, they've been trying to communicate their discomfort for a long time. Dogs are incredibly forgiving, but they also have limits. That's why it's so important to teach kids how to interact with them properly. Instead of rough play, encourage gentle petting and let the dog approach on their own terms. No grabbing ears, no climbing, and definitely no pulling tails. If a dog walks away, that means leaving them alone. Respecting their space isn't just about making them comfortable. It's about keeping both the dog and the child safe. The best way to build a strong bond between kids and dogs is through positive, structured interactions. Teach kids to give treats with an open palm, show them how to recognize when a dog is happy versus when they're overwhelmed, and most importantly, never leave small children and dogs unsupervised, no matter how good the dog is. If you have kids, how do they interact with your dog? Have you ever had to step in and correct a behavior? Let's hear your stories in the comments. Now, up next is something many dog owners do out of love, thinking they're giving their dog a treat. But some of these treats could actually be toxic. Let's talk about it. 18. Feeding them human food without research. You're sitting at the dinner table, and those big, pleading puppy eyes are locked onto you. Your dog is practically begging for just one bite of whatever you're eating. And let's be honest, it's hard to resist. But here's the scary part. Some of the foods we love can be dangerous, even deadly, for dogs. A lot of people assume that if something is safe for humans, it must be safe for dogs, too. But dogs process food completely differently than we do. Something as simple as a grape, a piece of chocolate, or even onions hidden in leftovers could lead to serious health issues, like kidney failure, seizures, or even death. Take grapes and raisins, for example. Most people don't realize even a small amount can cause kidney damage in dogs. Or avocados, healthy for us but toxic to dogs because of a compound called persin. And let's not forget xylitol, an artificial sweetener found in sugar-free gum and peanut butter, which can cause a dangerous drop in blood sugar and liver failure. Now, I'm not saying you can never share food with your dog, But before you do, you need to know what's safe. Instead of risky table scraps, stick to dog-friendly foods like plain cooked chicken, carrots, blueberries, or pumpkins. And if you want to give them something special, make sure it's from a vet-approved list of safe foods. If you really want to give them a taste of what you're eating, here's a tip. Set aside a small, unseasoned portion before adding spices or sauces. That way, your dog gets a treat, and you get peace of mind knowing it's safe. And when in doubt, look it up before giving it to them. It only takes a few seconds to check, but it could save your dog's life. What's the strangest thing your dog has ever tried to eat? Did they ever sneak something off your plate when you weren't looking? Let's hear your funniest stories in the comments. Now, up next is something we don't think about often, but it could be seriously overwhelming your dog's senses. 19. Leaving the TV or music too loud. Picture this. You're at a concert, the music is blasting, the bass is shaking the floor, and people are cheering so loudly that you can barely hear yourself think. Now imagine being stuck in that environment all day, with no way to leave or cover your ears. Sounds exhausting, right? Well, that's exactly how your dog feels when the TV, music, or household noise is too loud. Dogs have incredibly sensitive hearing, 4 times better than ours. What sounds like a normal volume to you can feel overwhelming to them, especially with constant background noise. And while some people think dogs like having the TV or radio on for company, if it's too loud, it can actually stress them out. Ever noticed your dog leaving the room when the TV is too loud? Or pacing around when music has a lot of bass or high-pitched sounds? Those are signs that the noise is too much for them. And for some dogs, especially breeds with acute hearing like Border Collies or German Shepherds, constant exposure to loud sounds can lead to anxiety, restlessness, and even long-term stress. The good news is, you don't have to live in complete silence. It's all about balance. If you like playing music or watching TV around your dog, keep the volume at a moderate level. Avoid high-pitched, sudden noises. And if you use the TV as background noise for them while you're out, try a softer, calming playlist instead of something with unpredictable sounds. Studies show that dogs actually prefer classical or soft instrumental music over loud, fast beats. There are even dog-specific playlists and TV channels designed to be relaxing rather than overwhelming. And if your dog is particularly noise-sensitive, creating a quiet space for them, away from the speakers or TV, can make a huge difference. Does your dog react to certain sounds? Maybe they have a favorite, relaxing song, or one sound they absolutely hate. Now, up next is something that doesn't just frustrate your dog, it can actually lead to boredom, frustration, and even destructive behavior. 20. Not exercising them enough. Imagine being stuck inside all day, barely moving, with nothing to do but stare at the same 4 walls. No social interaction, no chance to stretch your legs, and nowhere to release all your energy. Sounds frustrating, right? Now, imagine you're a dog, a creature built to run, chase, explore, and play. Yet, so many dogs don't get nearly enough exercise. Dogs aren't meant to live a sedentary life. They need movement, not just to stay physically fit but to keep their minds engaged and their stress levels low. When they don't get enough exercise, all that pent-up energy has to go somewhere, and that's when you start seeing behaviors like chewing furniture, excessive barking, digging, and even aggression. Ever noticed your dog zooming around the house out of nowhere? Spinning in circles, jumping off furniture like they're in an action movie? That's not just random fun. It's a sign of built-up energy that needs an outlet. And for some dogs, boredom turns into destructive habits, chewing on shoes, scratching doors, or even shredding pillows to keep themselves entertained. Not all dogs have the same exercise requirements. A small lapdog might be fine with a short daily walk, while an active breed, like a husky or a border collie, needs intense physical and mental stimulation every single day. The key is knowing your dog's breed, energy levels, and personality. And here's something important. Mental exercise is just as important as physical activity. Puzzle toys, scent games, and training sessions can help keep their brains engaged and reduce frustration. If you're short on time, short, frequent play sessions can still make a difference. A few rounds of fetch, tug of war, or even an extra 15-minute walk can help burn off energy. And if your dog spends long hours alone, dog walkers, interactive toys, or even doggy daycare can prevent boredom from turning into bad behavior. What's your dog's favorite way to burn energy? Are they a runner, a fetch lover, or a couch potato who needs a little extra motivation? Let's hear about it in the comments. Now, this next one is a mistake that many dog owners don't even realize they're making, and it can lead to serious behavioral problems over time. 21. Not training them at all. Some people think training is just about teaching a dog to sit or stay. But here's the truth. Training isn't about tricks. It's about communication. It's how your dog learns what's expected of them, how to behave in different situations, and most importantly, how to live harmoniously in a human world. When a dog isn't trained, it's not just frustrating for you, it's stressful and confusing for them. They don't instinctively know how to walk on a leash, come when called, or behave in social situations. And when they get in trouble for misbehaving, they don't understand what they did wrong. The result? A frustrated owner and an anxious, misunderstood dog. Dogs who aren't trained often develop behaviors that owners see as bad. Excessive barking, jumping on guests, pulling on the leash, chewing on furniture. But in reality, these behaviors aren't the dog's fault. They're simply doing what comes naturally because no one has shown them a better way. It's never too early, or too late, to start training. Puppies are like sponges, learning from every experience. But even adult dogs can learn new behaviors with patience and consistency. And training doesn't have to feel like a chore. It can be fun, engaging, and a great way to bond with your dog. Short, 5-minute training sessions sprinkled throughout the day can make a huge difference. If you don't know where to start, focus on the basics: sit, stay, come, and leash walking. Keep sessions short and reward progress with treats or praise. And if you're struggling, professional trainers and online resources can help guide you. Training isn't about control, it's about setting your dog up for success in the world they live in. What's the most impressive or funniest thing your dog has learned? Or if they have a quirky habit you never trained, but they do anyway, share it in the comments. Up next, we're diving into a mistake that affects every dog, no matter their breed, size, or personality. And it's something that can seriously impact their health and happiness. 22. Neglecting their grooming needs. A clean, well-groomed dog isn't just about looking cute. It's about keeping them comfortable, healthy, and free from pain. But here's the problem. Many owners don't realize how important regular grooming actually is. It's not just about brushing and baths. It's about their skin, nails, ears, and even their mental well-being. When a dog's coat isn't brushed, it doesn't just get messy. It can become matted, tangled, and painful. Mats can pull on their skin, causing irritation and even infections. Long nails? They can make walking uncomfortable, leading to joint pain and posture problems. And those floppy ears? If they aren't cleaned regularly, wax buildup and infections can become a real issue. Some dogs will scratch excessively, chew at their paws, or shake their head constantly. These aren't just random habits, they're signs of discomfort. A dog with overgrown nails may start limping or avoiding hard surfaces. A dog with dirty ears may paw at their head, trying to relieve the itchiness. And a dog with an unkempt coat? They may seem restless, irritated, or even refuse to be touched in certain areas because of the discomfort. Not every dog needs the same grooming routine. Short-haired breeds might be fine with occasional brushing, while long-haired dogs need frequent detangling to avoid painful mats. Nail trimming should happen every few weeks, depending on their activity level. And regular ear checks? A must for breeds with floppy or hairy ears. If a dog resists grooming, it's usually because they weren't introduced to it early, or they associate it with stress. The trick? Make it a positive experience with treats, praise, and patience. If your dog hates baths, use a no-rinse pet wipe between full washes. If nail trimming is a struggle, try a nail grinder instead of clippers for a smoother, less intimidating experience. And if you're unsure how to do it right, a professional groomer or vet can help ensure your dog stays comfortable and well-maintained. What's your dog's least favorite part of grooming? Or do they actually love being pampered? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your experiences. Now, up next is a habit that many dog owners do without realizing it, and it can actually make their dog feel completely ignored. 23. Forcing eye contact for photos. You pull out your phone, call your dog's name, and say, "Look here." But instead of happily posing, they glance away, yawn, or even turn their head completely. You try again, maybe waving a treat or making silly noises, but they still avoid direct eye contact. It seems stubborn, maybe even a little funny. But in reality, your dog isn't being difficult. They're uncomfortable. For humans, eye contact is a sign of trust, attention, or even affection. But for dogs, prolonged eye contact can feel intimidating, especially when it's forced. In the canine world, direct staring can be seen as a challenge or even a threat. So when you're trying to get that perfect shot, and your dog keeps looking away, they're not ignoring you. They're trying to avoid tension. Dogs communicate through body language, and when they turn their head, lick their lips, or blink excessively while being stared at, it's their way of diffusing stress. Some dogs will tolerate posing because they've been trained or desensitized to it, but for many, a camera lens in their face feels intrusive. Even worse, the bright flash and strange clicking sounds can make them uneasy, adding to their discomfort. If your dog isn't naturally into posing, forcing it won't make them more cooperative, it'll just make them more resistant. Instead of insisting on eye contact, capture them naturally in their element. Action shots, candid moments, or using their favorite toy as a focus point can make a big difference. Want them to look at the camera? Try holding a treat near your phone or using a soft whistle to get their attention without pressuring them. Short sessions, lots of praise, and keeping it fun are key. If your dog looks uncomfortable, give them breaks and let them decide when they're ready. Some dogs love the camera, others don't, and that's okay. The best photos aren't the forced ones. They're the ones where your dog is truly happy. What's the funniest or most challenging experience you've had trying to take a photo of your dog? Drop your stories in the comments. I bet there are some hilarious ones. Now, up next is something that might not be on your radar, but it's a hidden mistake that can actually affect your dog's health and well-being in the long run. Let's get into it. 24. Not cleaning their toys and bowls. Your dog's favorite toy has been through a lot. Chewed on, tossed around, buried in the backyard, maybe even dragged through the mud. And their food bowl? Used every single day, collecting crumbs, slobber, and whatever else sticks to it. Now, here's the question. When was the last time either of those got a proper clean? We often wash our own dishes after every meal, but when it comes to our dogs, many pet owners forget that their bowls and toys collect bacteria just as fast. Left unwashed, food and water bowls can become breeding grounds for harmful bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella. And that slobbery, well-loved toy, it could be harboring mold and germs that put your dog's health at risk. Dogs explore the world with their mouths, which means whatever's on their toys or bowls ends up inside them. If a water bowl develops slimy buildup, also known as biofilm, it can attract harmful bacteria that lead to digestive issues and infections. Dirty food bowls? They can cause stomach problems, bad breath, and even worsen allergies. And old, unwashed toys? They can collect mold and dirt, increasing the risk of illness. Experts recommend washing food and water bowls daily, just like human dishes. A quick scrub with warm, soapy water can help prevent bacteria buildup. Toys should be cleaned at least once a week, especially if they get wet or covered in drool. Soft toys? Toss them in the washing machine. Rubber and plastic toys? A soak in warm water with pet-safe soap or vinegar works wonders. A few extra minutes of cleaning can prevent infections, improve digestion, and keep your dog's mouth healthier. If a toy is too worn out, cracked, or impossible to clean, it's time to replace it. A fresh, clean toy is always better than one full of hidden bacteria. Be honest. How often do you wash your dog's bowls and toys? Are they due for a deep clean? Now, we've covered a lot, but this last mistake? It's one of the most common ones dog owners make, and it can completely change how your dog sees the world. 25. Expecting them to behave like humans. Dogs are family. They live in our homes, sleep in our beds, and share in our daily routines. But at the end of the day, they are not humans. They are dogs. And one of the biggest mistakes owners make is expecting them to think, react, and behave like people. Dogs don't hold grudges. They don't misbehave out of spite. They don't know better in the way that we do. Yet, so many times, people assume their dog is being stubborn or naughty on purpose. The truth? Most of the time, they're just confused. They aren't being bad. They're acting like a dog that hasn't been properly guided or understood. For example, if a dog chews up your favorite pair of shoes, it's not because they wanted to make you mad. They were likely bored, teething, or anxious. If they jump on guests, it's not to be rude, it's because they're excited and haven't been taught a better way to greet people. And if they hesitate to do something, it's usually because they're confused, scared, or unsure, not because they're being stubborn. The key to a well-behaved, happy dog isn't expecting them to think like us, it's learning to think like them. Dogs rely on body language, routine, and reinforcement. They don't respond to guilt trips or long lectures. What do they understand? Clear, consistent communication, positive reinforcement, and patience. Instead of getting frustrated when they misbehave, ask yourself, did they truly understand what I wanted? Have I taught them the right way? When you shift your mindset, everything changes. Dogs don't need to be mini-humans to be incredible companions. They don't need to understand every word you say to love and trust you. The strongest bonds are built on understanding, respect, and meeting them where they are, as dogs. When you let go of human expectations and start seeing the world through their perspective, you'll have a happier, more well-adjusted pup, and a stronger connection than ever. What's something your dog does that's totally dog behavior, but you've learned to love or appreciate? Share your stories in the comments. Alright, we've covered 25 things dogs hate, and some of them might have been surprising. But now that you know better, you can make sure your dog feels safer, happier, and more understood. Which of these surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you want more tips on how to truly connect with your dog, check out the next video, which is linked here. See you next time. Wow, we've covered 25 things that dogs secretly hate, and I bet some of them were pretty surprising. Now that you know, you can start making little changes that will keep your pup happier, healthier, and more comfortable in their daily life. But now I want to hear from you. Which one shocked you the most? Was it the way dogs feel about hugs? The hidden dangers of certain human foods? Or maybe something else you never thought about before? Drop a comment below, and let's talk about it. And if you love dogs as much as we do, hit that like button. It helps spread this message to more pet owners so they can avoid these common mistakes, too. And don't forget to subscribe if you want weekly pet care tips, training advice, and everything you need to build an amazing bond with your dog. We've got tons of useful videos coming your way, so make sure you turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out. Speaking of bonding with your dog, do you know the signs that your dog has truly imprinted on you? If you've ever wondered just how deep your connection with your furry best friend really is, click here to watch our next video. 9 signs that your dog has imprinted on you. You won't want to miss this one. Thank you so much for watching and for being an amazing dog parent. Keep showing your pup love and respect, and I'll see you in the next video.